Good morning, everyone. Today we're doing 10.2. Today we're graphing. This time we're going to graph ax squared plus bx plus c. So the properties of a graph of a quadratic function. The graph of y equals ax squared plus bx plus c is a parabola that opens up if a is greater than 0 or if it's positive, and opens down if a is less than 0 or if it's negative. Is narrower than the graph of y equals x squared. That's a stretch if the absolute value is greater than 1, the absolute value of a, and wider, that's going to be a shrink if the absolute value of a is less than 1. Now, what we need to figure out today is we're going to figure out what an axis of symmetry is when we have y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. So it has an axis of symmetry of x equals negative b divided by 2a. It has a vertex with an x-coordinate of negative b divided by 2a. Now that's the x-coordinate. How we find y is we just plug it into our equation. So plug in to find y. And it says it has a y-intercept of c, so the point 0, c is on the parabola. So every time we see a c, we know that's where it's going to cross the y-axis. The x here tells us what our axis of symmetry is going to be. So let's try some of this. First one, we have y equals negative 2x squared plus 12x minus 7. First thing we got to do is find the axis of symmetry. So if I'm trying to find the axis of symmetry, I'm looking for this equation, x equals negative b divided by 2a. So x equals negative b divided by 2a. Now in this case, my b is 12, so I'll have a negative 12 divided by 2 times the a, which is a negative 2. This would be negative 12 divided by negative 4. So in this case, x is going to equal 3. So I've just figured out that my x, or my axis of symmetry, is going to be at x equals 3. B, find the vertex of the graph. Now how we find the vertex is the x-coordinate is our answer for the axis of symmetry. So our x-coordinate is going to be 3. The vertex, we need to plug in x to find y. So now we're going to have y equals negative 2 times 3 squared plus 12 times 3 minus 7. Okay, so the first thing we got to do is do 3 squared, so that's 9, times negative 2, which is going to give us a negative 18, plus 12 times 3, which is 36, minus 7. So our y value is going to be negative 18 plus 36 minus 7, which is going to give us 11. So our vertex is going to be at 311. So I want to make sure I have my vertex on my graph, so I'm going to count down from 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I'll count down a couple more. 12, 13, I'm going to make my graph right there. Now at 3, 11, so 1, 2, 3, up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Now, how are we going to figure out how to graph this? Well, I know my axis of symmetry is right down this line at x equals 3. If I look back here, this says my y-intercept is at 0, c. So c here is at -7. So that means at 0, -7, -1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's where my line is going to cross the y-axis. Or my parabola is going to cross the y-axis, I should say. So I'm going to draw 1/2 of my parabola down to that y-intercept. And I'm going to make it as close as I can possible to the other side, because that is my axis of symmetry. Alright, next one, find the axis of symmetry and the vertex of the graph to y equals x squared minus 2x minus 3. So we got to start with x equals -b divided by 2a. Negative b is actually going to be a -2. A will be 2 times 1. So a -2 is going to be 2 divided by 2. So our axis of symmetry is going to be 1. X equals 1. Now if I want to find my y, I just got to put my value back in there. So y equals 1 squared minus 2 times 1 minus 3. 1 squared is 1. -2 times 1 is -2. Minus 3. So 1 minus 2 is -1. Minus 3 is a -4. So my axis of symmetry is 1. My coordinate is going to be 1, -4 for my vertex. So if I draw my line here, or my graph, I should say, at x equals 1 is our axis of symmetry. The vertex is at 1, -4, so over 1, down 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the vertex. Our C, our y-intercept, that's at -3. So I know my parabola is going to go through -3. So this one is actually going to open up because A is positive. Axis of symmetry is 3. Find and plot the vertex, we did that. Plot 2 points, one should be C, we did that. Reflect the points and then draw a parabola. So I can draw my parabola going up like this. Next one, y equals -1/2 x squared plus 6x plus 3. Label the vertex and the axis of symmetry. Well, this one is going to open down because I have a negative a. The axis of symmetry, x equals -b divided by 2a. So this is going to be a -6 divided by 2 times a -1/2. which would be negative 6 divided by 2 times negative 1/2 is going to be a negative 1. So our x is going to equal 6. Now if we put that back into the equation, y equals negative 1/2 times 6 squared plus 6 times 6 plus 3. Um, 6 squared is 36 times negative 1/2 is negative 18 plus 6 times 6, that's 36 plus 3. Negative 18 plus 36 is 18 plus 3 is 21. So my y is going to be 21. My vertex is now going to be 6, 21. So on this graph I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 20 lines on this graph. So I'm going to just make this at the bottom here. So at 621, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The 21 is going to be way up here. So now C, if I look back at my equation, my C is going to be 3. So 1, 2, 3. That's where it's going to go through my y-axis. So now I'm going to do, let's see how far away this is. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 away from the axis of symmetry. We only have 4 here, so I'm going to do my best to make a parabola that goes through my points. This is a huge parabola. That's why we have all of this space. Next, we have to tell whether the function f of x, that's another fancy way of saying y, equals negative 3x squared minus 12x plus 10 has a minimum value or a maximum value. Now minimum and maximum values for y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, the y-coordinate of the vertex is the minimum value of the function if a is greater than 0, or the maximum value of the function if a is less than 0. So the first thing we need to figure out here, well, we know it's going to open down. So now we got to find our vertex here. If I find my vertex, negative b divided by 2a, negative b here is going to be a negative 12 divided by 2 times a negative 3. That's going to be a positive 12 divided by a negative 6. 12 divided by negative 6 is going to be negative 2. Then if I put that back into my equation, we'll have y equals negative 3 times 2 squared minus 12x plus 10. Oh, not x anymore because we know what x is. We know x is negative 2. So negative 2 squared is 4 times 3 is going to be negative 12. Negative 12 times negative 2 is positive 24. And then plus 10. Negative 12 plus 24 is 12. Plus 10 gives us 22. So our coordinate is -2 and 22. So let's see if this is a minimum or a maximum. Well, it opens down, so that means my graph is going to be opening down like this, which makes it that I have a maximum. And then that maximum value is 22. Alright, next one and last one. So tell whether the function f of x equals 6x squared plus 18x plus 13. Well, if we look at our a is 6. That means it's greater than 0. It also means it's going to open up, which means we have a minimum. Now we have to find that value by finding our x first. Negative b, in this case, is going to be -18 divided by 2 times a, which is 6. So we have -18 divided by 12. In this case, -18 divided by 12 is going to be a -3 over 2. Now if we put that back into the equation, we'll have 6 times 3 over 2 squared plus 18x, or 18 times 3 over 2, plus 13. Now 3 over 2 is actually just 1.5. So if I do 1.5 times 1.5, I get 2.25. I'm going to multiply that by 6. So we get 13.5 plus 18 times 1.5, which gives us 27 plus 13. 27 plus 13 is 40. Plus 13.5 is going to be 53.5. So that minimum value is going to be 53.5, and our coordinate is going to be -1.5 and 53.5.